Hello everyone and welcome to another formal analysis. Today we're going to be covering the Pathetique Sonata by Ludwig van Beethoven. And this was, let me get my pen out here. This was written not in 1797, this was actually written in 1798, published in 1799. This sonata is going to be a little bit different to talk about. A lot of things are different in this sonata as compared to the first 7 piano sonatas. The first 7 piano sonatas were in a rather traditional and pretty straightforward classical sonata form type structure. This is one of the first sonatas where Beethoven really starts pushing the form a little bit. Now, I want to make this absolutely clear in this video. If you're expecting a complete, thorough analysis, a formal analysis, you will not get this. This video is more or less an overview showing you how Beethoven is using his themes, how he's structuring things. I'll be covering briefly a little bit on harmonic analysis when I feel it's important to mention it. But again, this is not a replacement or a substitute for a theory class at the collegiate level or an AP music theory class. I want to make that clear. This is my overview, and you can take it for what it is at face value. Again, this is not an AP music theory class. This is simply an overview of what I'm noticing and what I'm finding that's interesting in Beethoven's music. That said, we will dive heavily into the form, particularly the first movement and a little bit of the third movement. I will touch on the second movement. The second movement's in a very it's hard to talk about the second movement as it's a small little rondo, a simple rondo, but we'll cover all 3 movements. So let's get that out of the way. The performance that I have is by Gabriel. Let me see if I can get his name here. Gabriel Antonio Hernandez Romero, and this is a Creative Commons Attribute Non-Commercial 4.0, so I'm hoping this doesn't get flagged. This is found on IMSLP. Here, I'll show you real quickly. So I'm going to be playing this rendition right here, which hopefully I don't get into too much trouble by playing this one. So there you have it. And let's go ahead and listen to the exposition, which includes this introduction right here. And I'll talk a little bit more about this after we listen to the introduction and the exposition. So here we go. Oops. First of all, I think it's good if I click the right. There we go. Here we go. Okay, so there's a lot to talk about in here, and boy, oh boy, I wish I could get some decent performance of a Beethoven sonata for once. I'm always complaining about the quality and the lack of articulations and dynamics and whatnot. Anyway, I'm not going to gripe about the performance. I'm going to go ahead and talk about the music. So, as we can hear, so the one thing that's interesting is Beethoven writes an introduction in a sonata. Now, in a sonata form, you can choose whether you want to have an introduction or not. And an introduction serves simply as introductory material. In a great example in Beethoven might be, just one of the many, his Seventh Symphony. The first movement has an introduction, and that introduction material never returns. It's simply introductory material. And this is how you are supposed to write an introduction in the classical form, in the classical era, in this style. Haydn, Mozart, all those guys, they wrote with this in mind as an introduction. Now, Beethoven, as you heard, he brings this introductory material back time and time again, which begs to differ. Is this actually an introduction? And the Andras Schiff lecture on this, which I definitely recommend listening to, he actually argues that this is the first theme, which I disagree with, because Beethoven puts the the repeat bar right here. And we know that since he argues that we don't have his manuscript to this sonata, that he could have very well have gone back to the beginning. I really admire Andras Schiff. This is one of the times where I'm going to have to strongly disagree. Him and Rudolf Serkin are the only two people who play this sonata by repeating all the way to the very beginning, because they argue that this is the first theme. For our sake, this is simply introductory material that Beethoven is borrowing from pieces that Haydn did, because Haydn was his teacher. And Haydn did this in a couple of his sonatas. He would take introductory material and sprinkle it into the development and exposition. So I think that's really, if we don't overthink it, I think that's what Beethoven is doing in this sense too. He's young. He's he's 28 years old at this time. So he just started experiencing tinnitus in his ears. So he hasn't gone deaf yet. He hasn't really gone crazy. That's going to be in 1801. But so this is introduction material. If you're in a theory class or whatever and your professor tells you otherwise, I think they're wrong. But if you want to get a passing grade, then do whatever they want you to tell you to. But okay, enough with the introduction. So let's take a look at this. So we've got this dotted rhythm right here, which again, in the Schiff lecture, he mentions that this is reminiscent of the French overture style, which I definitely agree with. Beethoven was very familiar with J.S. Bach, and this is very reminiscent to a Baroque overture style in that French overture to that. So, and he even deliberately notates it with grave, which is extremely slow. But he has these massive dynamic markings and these giant chords right here that are supporting this. And you also get to see, or Beethoven and really any great composer, mind you. Let's choose this. You see, they're always writing in contrary motion. That's a bad color. Let me choose a brighter color. Always writing in contrary motion. See, these voices are going up. This one's going down. This is just good practice. Again, he's doing that right there. This is just textbook. Things are either coming together or they're going away from each other. So, and he has these, he really must have bashed his head on really notating this, and it's supposed to move. Bum, ba-bum, ba-bum, bum, rest. Da-dum, ba-dum, bum. So, and then just notation-wise, these are 128th notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, if I'm not mistaken. Those are 128th notes. So that's pretty ridiculous right there. So anyway, it's an interesting fact how he was so exact in his notation. And mind you, Beethoven was not very good at math. He did not know how to multiply. His way of multiplying was simply if he had 10, 10, 10. He'd do stuff like that and then just add all that together instead of doing 10 times 3, which he always regretted he never learned because it would make his life so much easier, but he really had to work his way through math and stuff like that. So I'm sure trying to write out this introduction was not easy for him with his limited math skills. But he managed to get through it, and he wrote a fantastically dissonant and pathetique introduction. Pathetique, by the way, is pathos, yearning. Really, it's reminiscent, I think, of a tragedy, like a Greek tragedy would be a good example, which Beethoven was a big fan of. Tempest Sonata, that's a little debatable whether that was true or not, but anyway, so he's got this whole introduction, which is he's just playing around with this dotted this dotted theme right here. So that's all he's doing, and he's got just simple accompanied, really rather thick chords, especially these full diminished seventh chords right down here. So, and then he has this run that has no crescendo up to it. So don't know why we crescendo on this. And then we have the exposition. So let's talk about the exposition. So we've got theme 1 right here. And he's got this pedal. He's got this nice pedal underneath here. Very rudimentary. This is kind of string writing almost. So he's got this pedal in the tonic, which basically just acts as a bass. Essentially, it acts as a floor or a foundation for him, because he really, the bass is not important. He's saying, look, the left hand, don't listen to the left hand, listen to the right hand. This is the most important thing you're supposed to be listening to. And he's got this nice ascending chromatic, so he's got these notes splitting in contrary motion, coming together, parallel motion, and then he's got them splitting again. So nice voice leading again right here. Splitting again. This is also very, by the way, very natural to play with the hands. It feels very nice to play as well. So it's kudos to him. He knows what he's doing. So he has this nice line going up, and then it comes back down. So this is again good phrasing. And then you notice he keeps this pedal right here, and at the very high point, then he starts bringing the bass line up while he brings the right hand down. So again, this is very purposeful. This is not accidental. Repeats it again, has nice little syncopation just to add a little bit of variation. And then he begins to modulate right here. He's on the 5. But I wouldn't call this necessarily transition material yet. You could argue you got this F sharp right here. He's not in C minor anymore. So in that case, sure, you can go ahead and call at this point transition material. But I argue it's not, because he's on the 5. He only really gets into the transition material, I think, right here when he has a clear. He really solidifies right down here. So that's just my perspective. Another little note. You'll notice this little accompaniment right here. That'll come back in just a sec. We also see it right here. Bump, junk, 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 bump, junk, 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 junk. So we're going to see that in theme 2. So right now he's modulating. He's in the transition material from this point on. And he's basically sequencing, I guess you could say. He's basically building. He's repeating this little motive right here. Bum 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 bum. So that's all he's doing, and then he's keeping this consistent left hand. And then this is where he's really sequencing. He's just taking these last little bits, and just playing with them. He's just driving them down. And then we get into theme 2, which is really quite interesting. So theme 2, he's in E flat minor, which is not the right key. So you can hear this, hopefully. Okay. So if you're in C minor, what you would normally do in a sonata, I hope you can hear this, is a normal modulation would be towards the major 3, the parallel minor, which in this case would be E flat major. But instead he goes to the parallel, not the parallel minor, but the parallel, I guess it's parallel minor, but he goes to flat 3, which is so it's it's pretty unusual for him to go to E flat minor in this time period. It's not too common to modulate to this rather remote. E flat minor has 6 flats in it. It's not a key that I write in very often or see very often. So it's got lots of flats. So he goes here, and now theme 2 is interesting harmonically. Theme 2 is interesting harmonically because he really hits up a lot of keys that he's walking his way. He realizes he's in E flat minor, and he walks his way harmonically all the way down to 4 when we reach the closing section right here, the closing theme. So let's see how he does that. So he's got E flat, and then he's got the 5. I should play. And what's really nice is that you just need to look at the left hand, and that's how you know what key we're in, because it's just a triad. This is just in second inversion right here, E flat minor in second inversion, and this is just a simple 5 of 3. So basically, this is just the dominant. Now this is interesting. Oh jeez. We are in treble clef. Okay. There it is. Now this is interesting because what is this? This is a D flat major chord in second inversion. I messed up on here. Okay, so this is a 5/7. Yeah, no, I was right. 5/7 of the Neapolitan 6 chord. So a Neapolitan acts as has subdominant qualities to it. Let me turn up the keyboard so you can hear it a little bit easier. So if we're in C minor, here's C minor. Okay. Now subdominant chord, for example, maybe be could be a 2 chord. This is a diminished 2 because it sounds nicer. Flat 2, flat 5. You could go to a 1/6, and then to a 5/7, and then to a 1. You can also go to the Neapolitan 6 chord, which is just a flat 2. It's flat 2, scale degree 2 is and so instead of going to C, D, you go to C, D flat, and then go ahead and make a major triad out of that. Make sure it's in first inversion. So you have, instead of D, F, and A, you have F, A flat, and D. And then you can do the same thing. You can go to a 1/6/4, a 5/7, and then a 1. So to put that into perspective, so this is one of those things that Beethoven loves in his music. You hear Neapolitan 6 chords, I swear, just in every single piece of his music. He just cannot get enough of a Neapolitan 6 chord. I think for the reason why is it just sounds, it really has a lot of harmonic, I don't want to say tension. It doesn't have tension, but it has a little bit more ambiguity, and it's not as intuitive as, for example, a classical, for example, a 4. So if I play like a simple, here's a, let me try to do a better job of this. So that's like a simple cadential cadence. He also, you can use a diminished. You'll hear this a lot in his music. I mean, these diminished chords really add a lot more tension, a lot more dissonances. But the Neapolitan is just kind of more of a unexpected harmony. So there you go. You can use Neapolitan chords. That's enough about these couple of bars. Let's move on. So he's got the 5 Neapolitan. He then ends up on the Neapolitan. That's B flat. And he's on B flat. So he's again on the, he's on 5, 5, 7, a 4. He's now on the subdominant right here. We're on the 1, but we're not on the tonic. This isn't a, this is not a, this is a half cadence, or not a half cadence. This is an imperfect cadence. This isn't a full PAC in the context. What are these notes? This is. And then here's our PAC. That was a lot. Let me back up a little bit. So basically, rhythmically, it's a very uninteresting section. Everything is chord notes. You get a dotted half, maybe a little glissando, and you got a little bit of mordents right here. So again, nothing too interesting. What's interesting though, again, this is where if you have a very boring rhythmic, something that's rhythmically really boring, chances are the harmonic structure is going to be a lot more interesting. This is what he's going to want you to focus on. And that is true for this section. It's incredibly repetitive. It doesn't really fly anywhere through the registers like we normally see Beethoven. I mean, it stays planted really in one position. You see the left hand is just pretty much just planted right here for the whole time. And he's walking down very slowly. Very slowly down here. You could almost call it transition material, but I call it theme 2 because rhythmically it's all the same, so I would associate with theme 2 and with a second theme. So anyway, so there's that, and then we have the closing theme, which is a huge contrast to this section right here. It's kind of like a breath of fresh air. It's like, instead of da 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 da, I mean, you have this nice instead of vertical writing, you have a lot of vertical writing right here, you know, just up and down. You have this now linear horizontal writing. You have it just really soaring, even if it's just these this suspended E flat right here, it's still just flowing. You've got these inner voices kind of just pushing you through, just kind of helping you along. So he's got that. He's got this little section right here, this nice little section, which he has a nice little 4, 5, 1 right here, 4, 5, 1. And then he repeats this section again. And then he has, I call it the coda of the closing section because it's in the same key as before. So that's really the most important. The reason why I call this section the closing and not like a third theme or anything like that is because we're in E flat and he doesn't move from this point on. Sure, he has this D flat here, but again, he's going up chromatically and modulating, but this is really all in a giant umbrella. This is all in E flat major. So that's why I associate this with the closing theme. And this is just, again, he's just basically taking these 2 bars and just basically varying it, essentially. Bum, 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 bum. That basically, these 2 bars right here. He's just having a little bit of fun, kind of running around a little bit with the with all that. And then he repeats it again, so he just has a cut and paste. Works effectively. And then this is interesting, he then returns to theme 1 right here. Except he's in E flat major. And just boom, 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 boom. And then this is also good writing. Don't use the same register. Alternate between the registers. This is good writing. Boom, 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 boom. Adds a lot more tension, and I mean, hell, you've got however many keys he had back in his day, so you might as well take advantage of them. And that is pretty much the exposition in a nutshell. That was quite a lot. We still haven't completed the entire sonata. Let's go ahead and re-listen to the exposition now with fresh ears, and keep in mind all those things that I mentioned. So here is the exposition, and we'll talk about the development after this. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about what we just heard, the development section. It's pretty straightforward. So he's using the introduction theme, I should say. He's using this as basically glue, as transition material, if you will, to help himself modulate to E minor. E minor, which is a bizarre key to go to as well. But E minor is the major. It's a major third above C minor, so it's not completely unrelated. But well, there you go. And he's combining these two themes. He's combining theme 1 with theme 2. Bum, 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 bum. You can also see the accompaniment change as well. So this is a clear indication that he's combining theme 1 and 2. Bum, dunk, 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 bum, dunk, dunk, dunk. Again, that's what we saw in here, except you're not holding down this C. So the C is being held through. This is a different way of writing it and notating it. But and then he's just basically these two themes are kind of clashing against each other, if you will. They overlap. So they're overlapping, and it sounds to me like they're fighting with each other, which is kind of a nice little programmatic thing, if you will. Then he's switching the voices right here. You see these two voices are switching hands. So instead of the right hand taking over, the right hand playing the melody, the theme 2 is now down here, and you have the tremolos happening in the right hand. So left hand's taking care of the main line. And he's pretty much, that's all he's doing up until he reached this pedal point. Now this pedal point, it's a very long pedal point. He's on the 5, which is a one-way sign, if you will, to point towards the resolution or the return of the recapitulation, or the recapitulation, if you will. So where does this little motive come from? This little thing, this little diddle, I think comes from, if I can find it. So I think he's taking, and I could be wrong on this, but I think he's taking this little thing right here. This little cooking motive, this little boiling thing, little figuration. He's just playing around with it, and he repeats it twice. So just a cut and paste of that. So he's building and building, and now he's just fragmenting. So instead of having this whole line being played, he's just taking this and then repeating it. And he does that 3 times. Our good father J.S. Bach has taught us that, the rules of 3. And he's got a cadenza whose purpose is to get us, is driving us down to the recapitulation. So he's kind of using this also as a modulation, an opportunity to modulate down properly, because he is on the 5, he needs to get back down to 1, so that's not too much of a struggle to do that. But it's a nice little idea to have a cadenza right here to kind of drive us down back to here. And recapitulation, not to spend too much time on that. Just little notes about that. He's using half notes now, just to kind of, he's fragmenting. He's fragmenting a little bit, just taking these half notes, just to modulate. And then he's completely removing a different section of the. So we in the exposition we heard this whole line repeated again. But we don't get that. He completely removes that and then just simply extends and fragments these half notes, this little motive right here. And then he's getting back down to here. Nothing too special about that. All this is pretty much as you'd expect. All the way up to here. Now let's talk about the coda. The coda begins in the same way rhythmically almost as the introduction to the development section. Let me go ahead and see if I can skip. This might take me a second to skip to the right section, so bear with me. There we go. So let's go ahead and play the coda, and let's talk a little bit about the coda before we get on to the second movement. So. Okay, so very interesting coda. Not the biggest coda in the world. If we start looking at his late Romantic era, or his Romantic, or what am I saying? His middle period and then his late period, we start seeing massive codas, and so this is kind of a precursor to that. So he begins with the grave, and he excludes the first beat, the first big hit, and he just so let me make this absolutely clear. So at the very beginning, we have this massive chord followed by the this dotted rhythm, the 32nd. So he basically just cuts this whole chord completely out, and then just he's just starting right here and then just working his way that way. Okay. Now I have to get back to where I was at. And I think it's I hope it's pretty obvious of what he's doing. You can probably hear it and see it. He's modulating again. He's having a little excursion. Going a little way harmonically, especially with the diminished seventh chords give you the freedom to really go anywhere harmonically. So he's going away and then he's coming back, and then he's finishing up with theme 2 right here. Theme 2, dun 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 bum 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 bum, and then just chunk 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 chunk. Nice 4 5 7 4 5. I'm sorry. Diminished seventh. 1 6 4 5 7 1. And that's pretty much it. Very violent, very abrupt, and that's it. Second movement is a big contrasting movement. It is a rondo, small little rondo. And it's a gorgeous theme, reminiscent of some Mozart piece, which I'll let you look up if you want to, if you're curious. Beethoven writes these big giant phrase markings right here. He helps us out identify really picking apart these phrases is very easy because he writes these slurs. So so there's our first half cadence. There's our PAC, so the end of the phrase is right here. He's got a little triads to get us to fill in these nice couple beats to get us to here. So he starts in the alto voice, which gives him space to then move up to the soprano. So he's starting at a low point, and this gives him space to reach a high point up here. So he can repeat this whole phrase, which he wants to do. But again, don't say the same thing twice if you don't have to. So he doesn't. He again extends it to the top voice, and then he adds all the voices. So you have the alto dancing around in here, and complementary with the tenor. And again, notice how masters write very carefully and deliberately in contrary motion, even when it comes to that. You see these voices are going away towards each other. Now they're going away from each other right here. You don't have to do it all the time, but it's you want to be. That's your goal initially. Is this goes up, this should come down. You can see these voices are going up, these voices are going down. I mean, this is just stuff that you learn in counterpoint, and we're going to talk about species counterpoint a little bit into this piece on the third movement. So here's the B section, and he still keeps this this heartbeat, if you will, or this panting, this dun 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 dun. Let's play a little bit of it. So now he's coming up to the soprano. how full it is. And then our B section, here's the first instance. And this C is basically just a pedal. Go on all day about this, but I won't. So yeah, and so he's having fun with his B theme. He returns to the A section. He varies it a little bit, and then at C, let's see if I can skip to it. This might be too far. At C, we were in duple meter, so we were to simply 1 and 2 and 3 and 2 and 2 and 3 and 4. So 1 2 1 2, very just 1 2 duple meter. So now he's in triple, or at least we have the sensation that we're in triple. He just simply puts the accompaniment in triplets, and this is a very effective tool for creating rhythmic contrast in music. So it's very monotonous to hear the same rhythmic duration, be it triplets or duplets. So in order to contrast that, to have reflection, very simple technique is, hey, if you got stuff it's in 16ths, put it in 16th triplets. This will make a big difference sonic wise. So let's see if I got into the right section. That works. You get the idea. So he's got that going for him. Yeah. So he's just carrying the triplets, and then we come back to the A. This is a really nice touch. It's so simple, but it's so musically effective. Is just keep the triplets going. It's different. It's a variation. So bring back the theme. He always brings it back in a differently each time. So he now has triplets going through here, which again, just kind of keep that momentum from the previous section going. So he's got that. So this is really good. And then again, just excellent voice leading right here. Excellent, just contrary motion. This also makes it, by the way, easier to play with the hands because your hands, if you look at your hands, they're symmetric. They're mirror images of each other. So parallel motion isn't the easiest thing to do naturally, but contrary motion, if you do anything contrary with your hands, it just makes it so much easier. So if you're a pianist, composer, keep this in mind. Study the greats. Don't study study Beethoven. He knows what he's doing. Here's the coda right here. Still keeping that triplet through here. He's got this E flat pedal. E flat is the dominance, so that's the 5. So he's got a 5 pedal going right here. And he pretty much just keeps that throughout, and has a nice little ending right here. So triplets all the way to the end. Cool. All right, let's listen to, let's talk about the third movement. We're going to blitz through this one pretty quickly too. It's another rondo. He actually marks it rondo right here. Ba-ba-ba-bum, ba-bum, ba-bum, ba-bum-bum-bum. This little figuration is from theme 2 of the first movement. So he's just recycling, and there's definitely nothing wrong with that. Let's see. Perfect. So the end of the second movement. We're going to fly right into the third movement right here. Okay, third movement. We're going to play the A section, and here we go. All right, so there's the A section. I didn't mark it in, but I'll mark it in now. This is B. This is the B section right here. So that, what you just heard, was the A section. Nothing really too much to talk about. Again, he's already made very nice, more slurs, legato markings, but he's already, yeah, here you go on the left hand. He's connected these phrases. So here's one phrase right here. Here's the next phrase right there. So he's in C minor, and here's a half cadence. Again, this is just textbook phrase writing, essentially. So, yeah, nothing too much to talk about here. Ends on the tonic right there. Yep, so that's pretty much nothing too interesting. Now, B section. Let's take a look at the B section. Oof, that was rough. That was not of the best performance, I must say. That was cringy. Sorry, that was a pretty terrible performance. Okay, don't gripe about the performance. Let's talk about the music. Okay, so he's got this nice little figuration coming up through here, nice little shape. He outlines that with a slur, so yeah, I don't even need to do anything. And this is just contrasting. I mean, it's just simply contrasting material. So it's just got simple Alberti bass essentially going through here. I'm not going to spend too much time analyzing it harmonically. The only thing I'll point out is he introduces, at this moment right here, there are planes flying overhead, by the way. So, oh no, that's a leaf blower. Okay. So, here. I'm going to actually back it up. Why don't you guys listen to this again? I'm going to fix the leaf blower issue. All right, there we go. There you go, like that. That was a good transition. All right, so good segue. So really the only thing that really started to stand out to me was when he started to introduce these triplets in here, because then the whole thing switched again from duple into tuplets right here. And then he starts playing around with a little bit of counterpoint, like a call and response. It's not a canon, but it's a call and response kind of thing, where and then he builds upon this right here. So just building and building and building. And then he switches back into duples right here. So nothing too much. And then he brings us back right here. Nice little cadenza flowing all the way down to this 5/7. And then we're back in the A section. Okay. Now here's the section I really like to talk about. This section to me came to me almost as a study in species counterpoint. And this C section is interesting because this is classic counterpoint writing. You have first species counterpoint. You could look at it right here. You have one note against one. This isn't the classical way of doing it, but I mean, I'm imagining he just doing his homework and then just thinking, oh, I could just apply this to this section right here. So he does. So you have first species right here. You have a little bit of second species. I wouldn't call this second species, but definitely when you start having two notes against one, that's second species. You could, yeah, no, I wouldn't call this second species. I changed my mind on that. Fourth species, I look at this right here because it's syncopated. So taking away a little bit of fourth species counterpoint. So I think that's kind of cool. Maybe a little bit of florid in here. And then so instead of the bass note coming first and then the right hand creating syncopation, it's now the right hand starting out and then the left hand creating the syncopation right here. You can see that right here. Again, I classify that as maybe fourth species counterpoint. And then really good writing right here. So he's just writing sixths right here. This is not strict species counterpoint, but again, look at this voice leading right here. This is wonderful. Again, you have this up here. He's adding the octave. He's switching this up actually. He's see, it has one note and then two. He's just boom, octave, one note, octave, and then it's just octave, one note, octave, one note. So he switches those just little things, tiny little details. Does this make a big sound difference? No. This does not make a big sound difference, but what it does do is it makes an incredibly careful composition. And then you notice that these voices are going up now instead of them starting by going down. So, I mean, just the level of detail and attention to it is remarkable. So, and then 6 going down right here. And then right here in this section, he's fragmenting. So right here, he's overlapping right here. So, so he's just bringing everything together. Let's see if I can get to that section right here. Let's see where we're at right here. So it's a variation in counterpoint. Fragmenting right here. And then right here, this is clearly third species counterpoint because you've got one note. You can look at this as, for example, the cantus firmus. You have one note. This would be a terrible cantus, by the way, but beyond the point. You have one note against 4. This is third species. This is a classic third species counterpoint right here. His intervals will probably be wrong, but again, this is just third species counterpoint. And then he switches hands right here. So this one goes down, that one goes up. Just a simple technique. Yeah, so just wonderful. Wonderful. You have this little, this rest is very important because this reflects the pickup that started the whole rondo in the first place. Ba-ba-ba-bum. 1 and 2 and 3. So just great stuff right here. And then again, he's very clear in outlining his phrasing right here. So he has this nice phrase mark right here to show you, hey, this is supposed to be, first of all, legato, and also showing you a phrase marking. So just really good stuff right here. Let's go ahead and listen to some more. So we're on the pedal point right here. Okay, and then we have this run coming back here, and then ending on again another 5/7, exactly the same as before. And then pick up with the A. Now the A section right here goes into a little bit of a development section, or almost, it acts like, here, I wrote right here, it acts kind of like a recapitulation where he's trying to stay in the same key. And and end in the same key. So he's modulated. He added a little bit of transition material in here. I'm not going to go into too much detail about that, but leave some analyzing for you. And he's extended certain parts of it, and he's like, for example, here, he's just taking these first three notes right here, and he's just gluing them onto each other. One's going up, one's coming down, and then this is again taking advantage of the registers. He's getting clearer in this phrasing. This is all contrasting with each other. Just everything is right here. Everything is just very good. Coming up, this is continuing. This is falling. Well, this voice is coming up. This voice is coming down. Well, that voice is going up. So, I mean, if you just sketch the lines of this, you'll know it's gonna sound halfway decent because of just the contour of all these lines. I mean, it's just very good writing. Let's listen to it. So here's, things change a little bit. And this is the B section, but in a different key. And here's our little call and response motive. Getting back to C minor right here. He's bringing it down. You can hear he's on the pedal right here. And then we're back into the A. Counting. A little quotation from the second movement. And he just throws it into the dumpster, and that's the way it goes. So that's pretty much that's it. And it's a nice little piece. It's humble. It's not flashy. It's not too showy. It's very well written. It's got very clear intentions. Everything is purposeful in this piece, as I have outlined right here. And I hope I've made sense of the Pathetique Sonata. This is again one of those big pieces that began to slowly push the boundaries of the sonata in this form, and didn't push it completely, but it definitely started challenging the sonata form a little bit. It was a teaser of what was to come in the future. So I hope you found this useful. Thank you all very much for watching. If you're still watching by the end of the video, I hope you learned something. And if you want to follow me, you can follow me, subscribe. Definitely subscribe if you want to keep up with what I'm doing. I'll be posting more Beethoven analyses in the future, and possibly other future material as well. I'm just a sucker when it comes to form and the sonata, so I really love the sonata a lot. Like this video. If this helped you out in any way, it would really help me out if you left a like, and go ahead and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.